I've been here 19 years. Been on the board since 2009-ish.
So I don't know, I might need a little help not being able to see everybody on screen, but why don't we do next Nelia, then Molly?
Absolutely. This is Nelia Churasky. I'm the board secretary, and it has been for 2 years and 2 weeks.
Molly?
Afternoon, everybody. Molly Mahar. I'm with Ski Vermont, the Vermont Ski Areas Association. I've been here since 2018, and I've known Parker for a long time too, so he knows me.
Do you want others?
Yes, Alicia and Matt.
Matt Willard from Matt Overland Ski Area, general manager. But been in here since 2017. So whatever that is, 8 years. Hey Parker, how's it going?
Good to see you.
Alicia? We'll come back.
Sorry
to
about
Alicia.
that. Alicia O'Gorman's with the Ski Vermont, the Vermont Skiers Association. But 2015, Parker actually hired me, so I was trying to think back. But yeah, so we're familiar as well.
Chad, are you able to see the
Yep. We have Caitlin Shaw.
Caitlin Shaw and Mike McAdoo from Smuggler's Notch Resort.
Great. And we have Justin.
Hey, everybody. Justin Preisendorfer. I work with the Forest Service with Jeff, and I'm based on out of the other side of the big river over in New Hampshire.
Great. And that's it. Justin, I didn't try your last name. Apologies if that offended.
No worries.
And Matt. I thought Matt already.
Matt, did we get you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
Me,
Great.
yes.
And so now maybe Parker, do you want to just introduce yourself to the group?
Sure. So interestingly, this is my first meeting as a newly appointed public member. But many, many years ago when I was with Ski Vermont and then became president for 12 years, I came to these meetings every time they occurred. And and looking at the agenda, I had a little bit of deja vu, virtually picking up right after I left off, several years ago. And but the governor was very comfortable making this appointment because he recognized that while I was once solely representing the ski areas, I really shifted to sort of an end user consumer usage, also with groups like Vermont Adaptive Ski and Sports, who are very much vested primarily with, of course, ski lift safety and how those things work and everything for their best interests. So that's kind of where I've evolved, and I couldn't be happier to be on this board and participating.
Thank you for giving your time.
Absolutely.
Okay. So with that, we will move on to approval of the minutes from the May 8th meeting. Those went out with the materials to the members prior to this. And I would open that conversation up for first if there's any amendments or requested changes.
Yeah, Tom Buchanan, I'd like to suggest 2 changes, and I sent these to the board this morning. The first, they have to do with attendance, so it's simple stuff. First one, board members present should be split to show that Commissioner Harrington and Tom Buchanan were present here, and the Kirsten Erickson and Michael and Scott Reeves were attending virtually. So it just splits those two, make that clearer. And I'd like the word present to be capitalized just for consistency. Second change is Jeff Hamill was here in person. He's listed virtually, so I'd like him to be moved to here. That's it.
Sounds very doable. I appreciate your eagle eye on that. Be more formal, I guess, for now. So all those in favor of those changes, please say aye. And if you're on the screen, if you could come off mute. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, those changes are adopted, and now we'll vote on the overall set of minutes from last time. If somebody could offer a motion to adopt those, I'd appreciate it.
Move.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Parker, we might have you abstain since you weren't
Sure.
here last time, if that's okay.
I was trying to help.
No, I appreciate that very much. Is there a second?
I can second it if you'd like.
Thank you, Scott. Nelia, before, do you want to say something before we?
There
Oh.
was a couple of changes that Tom Buchanan suggested. I don't know if we want to review those so we can approve them with edits.
We just did that and voted to approve them.
Thank
should
you. I
be-
missed that part.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, it's good. Thank you for catching that too. So all those in favor of the amended minutes now, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Any nays? Any abstentions?
I guess I abstain.
Thank you, Parker. All right.
Don't get in trouble again.
Can I ask that we stop sharing the screen with the agenda because
Sure.
I can't really see
Yeah.
anybody.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
It's all right.
Right. Well, well, that's happening. It's okay. Whatever you see on the screen, please consider privilege. He's closing it out.
All right, there we go.
All right. Can you see your Teams app, Dirk, on your laptop?
It's there.
Oh, it might be just because you're.
Maybe it's.
There we go. All right.
There we go.
Great.
Thank you. It just helps me see
I
everybody
know.
better. So,
Perfect. All right.
and I didn't
We'll
realize
move
that
on.
was Parker on the screen. So just funny note, if it wasn't for Parker, I wouldn't be at Stowe. Because Parker gave me the heads up 19 years ago that Rod Kessler was leaving and I applied for this job. So thank you, Parker.
I
I'm
remember
still
that
here.
Conversation take Monday. Yeah,
Nice.
you're welcome.
All right, so we'll move into our first kind of big item on the agenda here, getting the administrative pieces out of the way, which is the fee due schedule for the coming year. So I'm gonna hand it over to Chad. Again, we sent out a few projections for a budget prior to this meeting. Hopefully folks have access to those. And Chad, are you able to walk
I
us through them?
can absolutely walk you through some of them. So just to clarify, I come up with the projected budget. It is Dirk and Nalia who work together to come up with the proposals and what is required to come up with that budget number. So my part is really simple. We do straight math. Dirk's part and Nalia's part is a little more complicated, and that's where it involves discussion with you folks, the board, and everybody else, and Mike with his expertise as well. So the budget itself, and did that go out to everybody?
It went out as an attachment to everybody. Should
Board
have got the
members, board members
spreadsheet.
received it, the spreadsheet, the projected 26
Yep.
budget, and the methodology that I used this year was exactly the same as what we used last year and previous years. I took the actuals from the previous fiscal year and I took the high salary months and added some increases to that for COLAs that all state employees receive throughout the year and step increases that they receive throughout the years. And I applied that through the entire fiscal year of 26. And on all things that are not personnel, so what we call non-personnel services, NPS, I just did a straight 3.5% increase to take inflation and all of that kind of stuff into effect. So we came up with a round number of $580,000 to run the program for fiscal year 26. That's a projected program amount. Excuse me. Last year's program cost us, hang on one second, cost us $526,442.36. So this year's increase, when you bill it all in, is about a 4.5% increase in the entire budget. And again, most of that is salary and benefit dollars where that increase comes from. Any questions on the methodology or those numbers as they're presented? you're usually good for questions.
Yeah, kind of wondering if I should bring this up now or later. I just want us to look again at the fiscal year that we use versus the state fiscal year, why they're different, and if that's something that we might want to think about.
Well, we don't use a different year. The state fiscal year is, I guess I need a clarifying question. So the state fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th. The tramway fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th. The fee due year starts more like November. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
wondering why they aren't aligned. We've talked about it at every meeting. Never seem to get it
Yeah,
together.
that's, believe it or not, that's beyond my pay grade.
Is that our pay grade?
I think it is. Maybe Dirk has more insight into it, and really, I think we'd be looking at Steve Monahan, past board president or board chair to look at why that was done that way. But my understanding of it is that we can't really get into the fee due until later in the summer because of all of the knowing construction and all of those kinds of things. So having the fee due earlier, like we would be having this conversation in January to set the fee due for the coming year. So I think it's more to have a better understanding of construction and all of those offsets for the fee due. But
I think some of it
That's
is
my
probably because of the income of the ski areas, in the summer, they don't have money coming in. So I think it was probably pushed to November because of that.
That's my recollection.
yeah, so there's probably multiple factors.
Dirk might have a.
I was just going to add that it is actually in statute. It says honor before the first day of November in each year.
All right.
There's your.
That's probably
way to
gonna
get
be-
out there too.
Right, I think so.
So you get the first wave of, season pass sales.
Exactly.
That's when you're gonna start to swing.
Right.
You probably made the statute around that.
Yeah.
Income schedule.
So if it says honor before, we could do it significantly before that, but we have to. I think a lot of things have changed since that statute came into place. That's why I'm asking about it. And we've been looking at ways to not include new construction in this year's budget and instead roll it over as something that happens for next year. Just looking for ways to build fluff into our budget.
Yeah, well, from my perspective as an accounting person, that would be what would be considered unfair to this fiscal year. So the construction is happening this fiscal year. So it's going to require those kinds of efforts from the inspectors and those kinds of things. So if we're pushing those dollars past this fiscal year,
Okay.
yet the efforts happening in this fiscal year, it would really be unproportionate.
Okay,
That would be my input.
okay, that all
Yeah.
makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just as an example, because Killington is building a chairlift right now, Mike Morelli is spending
Okay.
a lot of time at Killington. So kind of makes sense to me for that cost to be borne
Right.
this November.
That's why we did the ×5 to help, keep track of that. Help the budget out.
Because the new construction and modifications change the cost per linear foot. We can better align the fee due with.
Right.
Something
The
came out
expenses
wrong.
associated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
All right.
all makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Any other questions on how we got to the numbers? Pretty straightforward. It's like the easiest budget we do. Great, Dirk.
I just wanted to add a couple of things. The projected budget. It anticipates another $15,000 to assist the tramway program, in the tramway apprenticeship program. That's obviously up to the board, but that is consistent with what we have done in the past. There are no significant new equipment expenses built into the projected budget because we don't anticipate needing a third four-wheeler this coming summer because at the this point, I don't think there's any with construction.
As of right now, it's very limited.
And finally, when you look at three different fee-due projections, I believe, Chad, we have $9,000 that we're
That's correct.
carrying forward. So you can kind of add that on to the total in terms of looking at fee-due projection and our anticipated budget.
So is that 9,000 included in this budget? or
It
not?
is not. It is a remainder from, it's what's left in the bank account after last year's. The board has the prerogative to use that against this 580 or continue to keep it in the bank account.
Not sure that we have that prerogative to keep it. We looked at the statute last time. Piece that said, grab it real quick. Said we had to spend it.
Right. I wasn't here for that discussion, so if that's what you've concluded from that statute, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's section 707, and it says the department shall assess total registration fees in the sum of the amount approved in the appropriations process for the program for that fiscal year, adjusted by any balance in the passenger tramway special fund from the prior fiscal year.
Right.
So I think that tells us we can't carry it over.
Great.
As a carryover.
That's fantastic.
Just
So-
within.
So 571 is what we need.
When I look at that, it bothers me because I'd like us to have surplus.
So well, we've had many discussions with the board on having that as an option. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we want to, so I'm not sure how that then potentially impacts the 85, 86 or 87 cents if we're now at 571 as a target, but whether it's, I'm not sure if Chad or Dirk, if you want to walk
Yeah,
through what
Dirk,
those different amounts would get us, however, we may have to.
So the 85 cents per foot would bring us, that's like about $1,000 short. 86.
So wait, yeah, so Dirk and now you have prepared, now the fee-due projection is this pretty antiquated little program. So Dirk and now you are the only ones allowed to touch it because everybody else will break it. So, and right, it's the original programmer. So the fee-due projection at 85 cents per linear foot comes out to a total of 570, 344 and 74 cents, which is right about what we're talking about for this budget. When we add in the 9,000 carry forward. What's the next one?
86 cents per foot would be 577. Add 9 to that.
Right, so 586. So that would be over.
Little cushion, and at 87 cents, got a bigger cushion.
We got 583,764 plus 9,000, so 592-ish.
That's almost $10,000 above projected expense.
What would a new ATV cost?
10 grand.
I asked that because we promised that to you 4 budget cycles in a row.
Yep.
And it bothers me when we promise, any administration promises something to its workers over and over and over and doesn't deliver. I would rather each of you have your own ATV so you don't have to share, don't have to deal with logistics. And so that the ski resorts see you properly equipped. Builds respect. Are you comfortable with just 2?
With looking at, what's coming up in another year, yeah. It's gonna be another quiet summer next year, it looks like.
Do you need them for general inspections?
No.
Should we think about that for FY27?
Definitely, another year, it's gonna change.
The other 2 still in really good shape.
Okay. One's newer.
Okay.
Another option, I just want to say we have, if we got, and if some it would be great if we saw some more activity, but we have ATVs sprinkled throughout state government, and we've been trying to start doing more resource sharing with our assets like that. So whether it was, if there was a scenario where I need to call up the Department of Fish and Wildlife, say, hey, we borrow an ATV for 2 days from you, or the Department of Public Safety. We've been trying to do more asset sharing like that across state government, so every agency and department doesn't have to have it. There's exceptions, but to the, if you don't need to all have your own ATVs or your own snowmobiles or your own boats. So anyway, I'm raising that as just another option that we have at our disposal should we see something come up that's not currently on the radar where we needed to use more ATVs. That's an option.
Yeah. Be nice if we could see if we could actually borrow one for like a season, a summer season.
They might not want to give us an ATV for the whole season, depending on what they're up to as well, but
Because that's what we do with the forwards. They go to a construction site and stay for the summer.
Yeah.
So we can just come and go.
Right.
But you're comfortable.
For this year, yeah.
Guys are comfortable. I don't want you to feel disrespected.
I'm comfortable.
I can't speak for Charlie. It's burning 1 mile up and down the Killington. Up and down Superstar right now.
Does the budget look good to you overall? Does it have what you need to do your jobs?
It does, for now, for this year, coming out. I think it's a pretty straightforward year.
You've got enough, you think it has enough overtime to cover what you might rack up? And
Well, that'll be up to the ski areas here this fall.
anytime I look at a budget like this, I want to make sure it's working for the people that are doing the job.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the lowest, the 85 cents would get us, did I hear more or less right on target? And the 86 cents, kind of the middle option, would provide a little cushion for unforeseen circumstances. So I'd open it up if anybody has a strong preference between those two. And I do just also want to be mindful knowing that Canadian visitation is down for you all as now ends. Tourism is still fine, but I'm hearing there's a tension at the border that is impacting that tourism market for us. I just don't want to raise money that we don't need. So
I'm concerned. I definitely get that. I'm concerned that inflation is potentially going to be an issue going forward for the next year because we don't have a cushion anymore. Don't have any way to deal with that. I don't want us taking from another department to feed this program. So I would rather we have a little bit in there that we can then put into next year's budget.
The 86 cents.
That's where I'd like to be.
I just want to get an understanding of the 9,000. So it seems to me, so with the 9,000 now embedded, the 85 cents meets that, correct? And so we really have a budget because of this leftover carryover. It's 9,000 bigger than people were sort of sketching out for the next fiscal year, right? So
well, the budget
is that
amount
enough
needed,
cushion? That's what
yeah,
I was
the budget
wondering.
amount needed is still the same amount.
Yeah.
We have 9,000 in carry forward funds
Yeah.
that can go towards that. So the amount that we need to raise by the fee due is 9,000 less with Tom's notation that the statute says we should be using those dollars. So so instead of needing to raise $580,000 to meet this budget, we can raise 571.
Right.
To meet this budget
Because of the 9,000 carry.
because of the 9,000 carry forward. Yes.
So that's why I was wondering if that's maybe it's not really considered a cushion like Tom was talking about, but it seemed like if we had a budget 9,000 bigger than it needed to be last year, then, why would we want to make it even bigger beyond the 9,000?
Well, so the methodology takes that into account. So we don't take last year's budget and just and inflate it by 4.5%. We take last year's high numbers, so actuals rather than budgets. So last year through our projections, we thought it was going to cost us $9,000 more than it did. So we raised those dollars. So rather than taking the total dollar amount that we missed by about $9,000, rather than taking that number and inflating it again, for this year's budget, we take actual dollars that were spent and use those as our projection for this year. So it negates essentially double inflation, if you will. Inflation's not the right, double overestimating. Yeah. Does that make sense?
So one of the reasons I'm cautious about all this, at my first meeting, we had a $33,000 surplus. That was February 23 of 2023. By 8/22/2024, a year and a half later, we were $4,500 in the red. So it's really hard to calculate all this stuff out.
Yeah.
And I don't want us to get in the red. What we did when that happened is the Department of Labor reprogrammed some of their money to help us. It saved us. We shouldn't be using DOL funds, the self-funded project. So I'd rather we have cushion in there. The 85 doesn't really get us everything we need. It's a couple $1,000 short.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah.
Scott or Kirsten, just want to, I know you're on the screen, but want to hold some space if you have any thinking on this.
I mean, we're discussing a penny. It
I know.
doesn't really matter. I just, I'm always concerned about the smaller resorts and what their fiscal budgets are. I mean, if we were talking about 5 to 10 cents, then I'd say we have a discussion, but, Kirsten, unless you feel differently, wherever we want to land at this point, I don't care.
Yeah, I agree. The 130,000 for Killington regardless.
And I'm going to put a motion on the table for 86 cents. We can have more discussion, but I'm just going to kind of put that marker down. To guide us.
I'll second that motion. Scott, do you have a small ski area in mind that you think of when you consider small areas, or Kirsten?
I think about, the Linden Outing Club, do they obviously pay a fee due at some point. I think of Bolton, I think, the small independent operators there. Although, allegedly we all had good seasons from last year, but.
So when I look at Linden, for example, at 85 cents, it's $722.50. At 86 cents, it's $731. So it's less than $10 for them. For Bolton, the difference is $14,989 versus $15,166. So it's maybe $180. So the penny really.
Well, when you
isn't
look at the
much.
Linden Outing Club, it's an all volunteer organization. So, I think of those organizations of, any dollars more can hurt their bottom line. You look at the Brattleboro Ski Club, stuff like that, they're all.
Scotty.
Yeah.
I look at it for Linden, it's about $9, $10. One of the things I bring from aviation is that when aviators or aviator companies are struggling at those micro levels, you often see problems in equipment and operations. So I worry when we worry about $10 or $100 or $200, and we think that's going to break somebody, I worry that they're already broken. That's how I look at the small areas. I think the penny really doesn't matter either way to them. I hope it doesn't.
Well, just if the 85
I think that was
cents
my
doesn't-
point. I didn't think, we're at the high end, we're talking about 3 cents, and at the low end, we're talking about a penny. So that's why I said, if we were talking 10, 20 cents, then we've got a discussion.
I'd agree.
I see it. Matt, do you want to weigh in? Invite you to.
Yeah, I think as a relatively small, I wouldn't even call us mid-size. I agree. It doesn't matter. It's $300 from the high to the low. That
I just, with
Pick
the
a-
85
pick it.
cents, if we know that doesn't raise enough money, I don't feel like it's responsible to set a rate that underfunds the projected budget, which is why there's a penny saying 86 cents as the kind of motion on the table. Sensing that nobody has a strong issue with that you are wanting to raise right now.
I'm having another moment of deja vu where it seemed 9 times out of 10, the three VDU state numbers, the middle number would be chosen and kind of win the day with hitting down the middle. So I think it's a great, kind of great middle.
Okay.
I think last time we went with the bottom one.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're back now. It's all
Right. I'm already costing more
I
money.
think we can call it.
So all those in favor of 86 cents, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Or any abstentions? Okay, 86 cents it is. Thank you, that was a good conversation. Okay, lift mechanic apprenticeship update, Alicia.
Hi, all. Alicia with the Vermont Skiers Association, Ski Vermont. For an update with Tramway, which again, as was mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, currently the program is referred to as the Tramway Maintenance Technician Apprenticeship Program, TMTA for short. But there's been a discussion with the state. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Should have probably checked in on that before I started my spiel, but I just wanted to double check. So per the discussion with the state, we are looking at renaming that to the Ski Lift Mechanic Apprenticeship Program. The idea behind that is when you are searching for jobs here in Vermont, most of our members are referring, and our skiers are referring to these positions as a ski lift mechanic versus your like tramway maintenance technician. So the idea is hopefully that it'll be kind of more streamlined for individuals looking to move into careers in this industry. And then as we continue to develop curriculum and education to entice people to move into the industry, it's a little bit more digestible and easier to say for people. And it kind of gives people a more encompassing idea of what this type of career would entail. So in general, we are still referring to it as TMTA because we are currently holding classes. And right now, classes run through the summer, and we are on track with finishing up here in September. As you guys might recall from the last meeting, we were clocking in at 39 students over the 3 levels that we offer for this program, and they're doing roughly a 13-week course this summer that, again, they're starting to kind of wrap up, and we'll be doing some final testing here. Typically by the end of September, we have all of the levels completing their final testing. If there's any more specific questions, I'm happy to reference those. I just was going to keep it brief this time, just because, again, nothing has drastically changed since my update previously when we were starting the course. We're starting the classes for the summer. We're kind of still in the middle of it.
Questions for Alicia? Tom?
Yeah, I have one. It's not so much a question, but kind of an awareness issue. We've been level funding your program now for a few years, and inflation has been eating that away. It's been $15,000 each year. And I was a little bit concerned that we were not meeting the standard for you. So you and I had a quick email conversation. I asked you if that was okay, and you thought it was. That's why I didn't raise it during the budget period. But I just want to let you know and everybody know that I support your program. And if next year you think you need a little more money, let us know. Certainly
Yes,
consider.
thank you, Tom. Tom, as he mentioned, did reach out, and we just had discussed funding what has been done in the past and what we projected needing in the future. And he's correct. We've stated that, since Ski Vermont took over the administration of this program, and again, with the administration of the program, I just want to clarify, Ski Vermont is assisting the state with the RTI. That's the related technical instruction. To dumb it down a little further, aka the class instruction of the apprenticeship program. The apprenticeship program as a whole encompasses more than just what Ski Vermont is overseeing. There's an on-the-job training component. But as far as the funding that Tom is referring to, that is going towards the RTI portion of the apprenticeship program. And we started assuming the administration of that in 2021. And the support has allowed us to maintain the ski area's costs per student to be like roughly $100 to $200 annually, depending on enrollment and material needs. And so it has consistently covered the majority of the instruction and material costs, again, along with the ski area's cost per student. We are continuing to track costs closely. We're always exploring options for class materials to order those in the most cost-effective way that we can manage. And, you know, despite fluctuations in materials or instructor needs or availabilities, currently that 15,000 in the proposed funding should be sufficient for covering our needs at this time. And Tom, to your point, if that becomes a different conversation, we would be bringing that up to the board. But thank you again for your support and for reaching out ahead of time just prior to this meeting to confirm that budget. I appreciate your time for that.
Alicia, how's the enrollment been over the years? Steady, hopefully, or?
Yeah, it's been pretty consistent since, again, we've taken over in 2021. I would say we hover anywhere around the 40 mark. We tend to get some people who's a higher number at the beginning, but as far as the people that are actually completing, we stay right around that like 40 to 45 mark. This year we are at 39, and that's, like I said, pretty consistent with the average that we anticipate as people go through the program. It does, I would say we see some pretty consistent enrollment as far as somebody doing level 1 and completing up through level 3. It's just how many new level 1s come in, and that is pretty dependent on what the ski area's hiring needs are. And that corresponds to that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Molly?
Yeah, just two things. I just wanted to add that Alicia does a really fantastic job administering this program on behalf of Ski Vermont. She has a great rapport with all of our instructors and does a great job with the budget. So I just wanted to acknowledge her work there. And then I just wanted to say also that, you know, we are looking at ways to kind of grow the pipeline for lift mechanics and other positions or other areas at the ski areas to make sure that people are aware of what's available, including the lift maintenance piece. You know, we've got a new committee that we've formed, and so I just wanted to make a note of that as well.
It's exciting, and you know I want to help with that whenever I can.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Mike Nellis and I have been in communications pretty regularly regarding this program. I've tapped into Rob as well for his opinions on items that, for curriculum wise, we are keeping a pulse on what's happening at the National Ski Area Association level as well. NSAA is looking at rolling out some education, or they have rolled out some education over the past few years and have been looking ahead at potentially proposing a national apprenticeship program. So we have been looped in on many of those conversations. I'm sitting in on both the apprenticeship side and then education opportunities in general on both of those conversations happening at that level, and keeping an eye out there and seeing how it could potentially impact or assist the program we have. Vermont is nationwide the only state that has a flushed out apprenticeship program to the degree that we do have, going all the ways up from level 1 to level 3. A lot of the education that I've talked to states that are other states are doing are really focusing on that level 1 kind of entrance level and the education out there. There are a few institutions that are doing education beyond that level 1, and so we've been in conversations with them, but a majority of the education out there now is pretty equivalent to our level 1. So just to keep you guys in the loop on that, we are trying to stay on top of that and seeing how that could integrate with Vermont's program as well. If any of you are curious about that, I'm happy to speak to that more, either, you know, via email or here, of course.
You feel like NSAA is respecting your leadership there? Is Vermont being respected?
Yes, definitely, especially on the apprenticeship side. They've actually looked to our class curriculum and fielded some of like the concerns or, you know, challenges that we have with our program. On the apprenticeship side, they've really looked at Vermont's program as a platform to kind of build theirs off of. We've shared our curriculum, have had open conversations about how other states could implement something similar, some challenges that we may be facing in Vermont, and how could we, you know, as a whole industry address those. Molly touched upon that. That would be pipeline for talent coming in, making these type of jobs more career oriented for those looking to come in, versus just like a seasonal job base, and focus that. So as far as like respect and conversation, we've been pretty integrated in that. It's more of just from talking with people up at the NSAA, it's just more at the federal level where they are trying to see how that would come through by making it a federally regulated apprenticeship program. But it seems like they're planning on moving forward, and yes, very connected with them.
Yeah, our program's been running since 2000.
Yeah.
So,
good. And I can imagine a national organization slamming down and squashing the little guy or respecting the little guy that developed it. And I'm glad to hear that it's that way.
So
I can say they do hold Vermont in very high regard on many levels. So yeah, I can definitely vouch for that.
Alicia or Molly, this is something we can follow up on. If this program has existed in some way, shape, or form since you said 2000,
Yeah.
that'd make this year the 25th anniversary, and maybe we want to recognize that somehow. We can follow up if there's some creative thinking. I don't know what that looks like, but why not?
sure.
It's
That's
the 25th
that's a great point.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good idea.
So we can follow up. I'll make a note to follow up on that. All right. So if there's no more questions on apprenticeship, let's move to the summer construction and operations update.
Okay. We'll start with summer operation. As of right now, we got 10 ski areas in running this summer and 17 lifts. And this fall, we'll add 3 more ski areas that'll come on board for weekends, you know, with the leaf season. So about the same ski areas seem to be running, you know, during the summer right now. So no real problems this summer. It's been good. Operations have been good. I'm not sure what the numbers are, you know, how everybody's doing, but lifts have been running good and everybody's doing fine. Any questions on the summer?
Maintenance and new stuff that's happening. Isn't there a new carpet someplace?
Yeah, we'll talk about that with construction. Yeah. Construction, kind of a slow year. We got the new detachable at Killington, which is being worked on as we speak. Towers are in, top terminal's done. That one's moving right along. The goal is probably to do inspection probably the 1st of November. Seem to be on track. Have that done early. That's the goal for them. So I think we're still working that way, right, Kirsten? We're in there.
Yes, that's the goal.
Right. The only other new lift is a 250-foot carpet at Sugarbush that's installed and been tested already. But that's it for new construction for this year. So it's pretty slow. Modifications, major modifications. Stratton had a big one, full electrical upgrade on one of their detachables. You know, it's a $2 million project. I mean, that started early and that's already done and operating. The other big project at Killington, they're putting new cabins and hangars on Starship Gondola, and that's going as we speak right now. So that'll be a huge project. It should look pretty good. So, and that's about it for modifications. Usually we have, 5-6 modifications a year. We just basically had 2 this year. So for the whole construction year, it's pretty quiet. So.
Do we think that will keep going?
Looks like for another year, possibly. It's going to be another quiet summer. It's looking like that. Nothing's under contract for next year already, so it's looking pretty, about the same probably. Any other construction questions or? Okay.
Relatedly, the next item on the agenda is a conversation about concrete integrity at older lifts. And I wasn't sure, actually, no, so I'm like, I know you prepared some stuff, but maybe Tom, if you wanted to give some context to this topic, because I know it's something you were asking to discuss.
Yeah, I want to go back to
Okay.
Mike's report first.
Sure, let's do
And
that.
ask about list of variances that we've issued. Board has asked about that. I've talked
Yes.
to Dirk about that.
I have
There's a-
a list of variances, that Mike and Nelia pulled together.
I don't need,
share
I
with
don't,
everybody.
I don't need to see it right
Okay.
now. Is it accurate and complete?
I don't know. I'm assuming it is. I got the information from Mike.
Yeah, we started, what, a couple years ago? No, yeah, numbering them too. We never had that before. So now we actually have a numbering system and it could really keep track. So,
Does your list include everything that we know about?
yes, for 5 years.
Do we know anything before 5 years?
Yes,
Are they in the list?
no. We were asked for 5 years.
I would ask for every variance that exists, that the board should know what variances it's presented and what's out there. And the ski area should know what's out there. Somebody is thinking about asking for a variance, they should be able to look back and see what's been issued. How does this request compare to what's already there? And ski areas are required to follow the rules unless they have a variance, and we should know that those variances are there. So what I'd like to see is a complete list of variances going back to the beginning of time. If our records don't support that, my recommendation to Dirk was when we register these lists for each year, we're in that process now, require every ski area to tell us what variances they're aware of. And we've got it from them, we've got our package. To make one complete list and keep that updated so everybody knows.
Yeah. I don't know if we're- Be tough to find the ones before I started, so we'll see. That's 10 years, 14 years, so.
Yeah, that's where I think we go back and ask the ski areas, what do they know of in their inventory that
Right.
we don't know about? This really came to light when we had the problem at Smuggler's Notch. Where, do you know that problem?
I'm not aware of just what you're saying.
Yeah, let me quickly go back. In 2023, Smuggler's Notch, or 2022, Smuggler's Notch was running three people on a double chairlift if they were students and small kids. An inspector saw that, said that's a problem, we need a variance. They came to us for a variance. It's an issue here. We continued the discussion to another meeting, and then found the variance in our hidden records that we didn't know about. So all is well there. It tells me that there are variances out there someplace that we don't know about. And I want us to have a complete list.
So, Tom, if I may, I asked Mike and Nelia to pull 5 years worth because that's about a little longer than I've been affiliated with the program. Happy to go back as far as we can, but that was my initial ask, so it's not, reticence on Mike's part. It's just
Yeah.
that's what I asked.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we haven't had this particular discussion here. I really wanted to. The minutes that I have go back more than 5 years. So there's some things in there as well.
Yeah, if we captured most of it, I think all of them.
Is querying ski areas in the registration process possibility?
Sure.
That would just solve the problem. Now we've got a database and we're set forever.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do that, I would suggest that maybe we have a form or a format, so it's consistent. So I would say we have to develop something that we would hand the operators and make sure that it's consistent across the board.
Right. Nelia, did you want to add in on this?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that we did go back to 2017. on those ones that we could locate. We located one from 2017 and he made it to the report as well. So we can go back in time if you need us to, but we went back as far as 2017.
So that's something we can work on compiling. I do think that's overall good record keeping. And there's not necessarily harm in us having that information accessible. So we will continue to work on that, and there'll have to be some follow-up around what that form looks like, or template, and how we're going to store the information.
Something could go out when we send the fee out. That could go out in that letter. Something like that.
Good for precedent. I like precedent as a lawyer, so you, are you kidding? 3 people on a lift. Well, now we have this information.
Yep.
That's already been okayed, so yeah.
Right.
We can pull together some kind of form prior to Nelia's fee mailing.
So in the new lift registration, there's just a question there, or have any variances been issued for this lift. So when somebody registers a new lift, that question is there.
Right.
It isn't on the older one. Yeah. I think what Scott is asking for is a questionnaire that says, what does the variance say?
Yeah.
And which lift does it come?
See if we can get a copy of it.
Okay. So let's, again, I feel like this is all in a similar vein here. If we want to talk about now the concrete integrity of older lifts. So again, Mike, I know you prepared some information. Tom, as a board member, this was something you wanted us to discuss. So I didn't know if you just wanted to start us off, just so everyone can have your thinking on the topic.
On July 7th, I received an anonymous call from a member of the public who was concerned about aging concrete at one of our resorts. They have older lifts, and he was concerned about large concrete blocks. His concerns seemed legitimate. He was anonymous. I didn't push him for his name. His concerns seemed legitimate. He had a general understanding of the industry, and I thought those concerns should be followed up on. So I asked Dirk and Mike, or advised Dirk and Mike to comment, and asked them to follow up at that specific resort and to look at the other older ski area lifts with concrete. We've got a bunch of lifts here. I don't have a list of our lifts, but from Lift Blog, I'm seeing 18 lifts from 1975 or before. That's 50 years old. So that's where the concern is. What are we doing about concrete? How are we sure that it's okay?
Okay. Well, good question. That's one thing, in Vermont, we have a lot of older lifts, and so is, in the United States too. That's something I'm on the ANSI committee that we're looking at too, is, we have so many older lifts, how can we make sure they're safe? So the one good thing we have in Vermont, as inspectors, the 3 of us, we work year round. That's, looking at ski lifts year round. A lot of different, even Colorado, they sub it out or whatever. But we're looking at, these foundations all the time. A lot of the biggest problems, I'll just pass some of the pictures out that, what we see, in our daily job.
For those online, these are the meeting materials and minutes. So
The biggest problem we have with some of these older foundations is you'll see is vegetation. They're grown right in. The sunlight can't get to them, so it just breaks down the concrete. We've had quite a few ski areas in the last couple years that we've actually sent them to an engineer. We're concerned. Hire an engineer to look at it and come up with a repair. So like I say, the biggest problem with a lot of the older foundations is water too. Water, is running right at the foundation. It's got to get diverted. Vegetation like that, or once they start cracking, you see some of these that have cracks or holes in them. Water gets in, cracks them more, So that's something we're always looking at in our daily job. Like I say, the one thing we're actually able to do you know, we do ski lifts year round, so it helps us, we get to see all the different seasons, so. Just, you know, like I say, we're after the ski areas, a lot of times to mow in the summer times, weed whack around some of these towers, put curtain drains in, you know. You know, these things are old, you know, they develop over time, you know, water, you know, surfaces. So that's something, you know, we do. Part of our job is, you know, we're concerned with concrete. We'll send them to an engineering firm, you know, let's let the engineer look at it. Can we come up with a fix? You know, just a picture, this is what, you know, after it's been repaired, you know, you looked at pictures of, you know, how the, you know, they're cracked or whatever. So there is repairs that can be done. If it goes too far, you see some of the steel that has moss on it. Moss holds moisture. The steel will go bad. And we've had that in the state where the ski area has to either re-pour the whole foundation or replace some of the steel. It's a lot of moss and grass just holds moisture and it just, you know, disintegrates the steel. Mostly in our climate here, you know, we're pretty humid in the summer, so it does, you know, does its toll on it. And here's actually, I'll show you a picture too. You can actually see, this is at one of the ski areas. You can look up the line, see how it's tipped. You can actually see it tipped. Well, this is what has to happen. You know, have an engineer come in, pull the tower back over, drill into the side, and then it's actually repaired.
Wasn't there a tower that, or a elopement within the last couple of years that was caused by a slippage of the foundation? Not in Vermont.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's not uncommon. We've had whole terminals actually get water underneath, and it'll actually in the spring pick them up and move them. One day the terminal's fine, next day it's out of alignment. But it does happen. I mean, that happened, that one right there happened in Vermont, you know, so had to pull the tower over, re-pour it. They were able to save it, so which was a good thing. So.
And normally, in your experience, the ski areas are pretty responsive when you come in and you say, this needs to be looked at, please hire an
Yeah.
engineer.
We write it up and,
Yes.
you know, suggest maybe an engineer that can do that or
Yeah.
has done it before.
And then do you follow up after?
Yep.
They were gonna, you
Make
know,
sure
let us
it's-
know when it's finished, we'll be back.
Right, make sure it's completed.
Mhm.
Cause you know, something like that, you leave it go, it's just gonna get worse and, you know, you could end, you know, if it gets real bad, you could actually lose your lift for the year, so.
I look at these pictures, I'm seeing everything above surface.
Yep.
I'm not seeing anything down below.
All right,
Do we do any non-destructive testing, any pressure testing,
now, not,
sound testing?
if it, say a tower gets hit by a groomer, we have that, I'll make them dig it up and ultrasound the bolts. You know, actually shoot down there and make sure they haven't cracked the bolts or whatever. If there's water, sometimes we'll want them to dig around and, see where it's coming from, you know? We've had problems in the east before with moisture from a leaking snowmaking pipe. They actually had a whole terminal pull out one summer, one of the areas in, you know, New England. It came in one day and the terminal's sitting on the ground and chairs are. So it does happen.
When I look at our current standards for pouring concrete, they look pretty solid.
Yep.
It's the ACI standard.
And one thing I require now too, something I put in when I started here, we actually require a testing company. Every time we're pouring, I want 2 samples out of every truck. So we monitor that. That's something that I had put into our code when I came. So, you know, so we have actual, you know, engineering tells us what the strength is and everything.
When I look at older concrete, that didn't exist.
Correct.
In fact, often they might not put rebar in there at all.
Yep.
Or they might not protect the rebar. Type of concrete that was poured would be different.
Well, a lot of it's the grout too, you know, if they were rock anchored into a ledge, the stuff that was used to grout, you know, dissolved in water. And that was a problem too over the years, you know, so now like Buckmeyer and Palma pretty much they don't do rock anchoring anymore. It's all blasted out, spread foundation. So that's, you know, that's took a while to get there too.
that still takes us back to these 50-year-old lifts where we don't know what the concrete is. We don't know what's in there. We don't know what's below ground. We don't know how it's anchored to the ground. That I think is the concern that I heard over the phone. We don't have any of this information about old lifts, and we don't have any inspection standards for old lifts. We have NDT for all the steel components, metal components, nothing at all for concrete.
What are you looking at for concrete? I mean, what kind of,
I don't know what's available.
Yeah.
Have we looked at the American Concrete Institute standard that we've adopted? Does that say anything about it?
I think it talks about, more recent pouring and that kind of stuff,
Nothing about older concrete.
No, that's definitely a concern across the country.
How about AOT? They have a lot of bridges, culverts, structures of some kind.
Yeah, we worked with them a few years ago on some of the stuff that we were doing compared to what they do. It's kind of totally different. It comes out to be, they're doing bridge work above ground where we're 4 feet down, or 5 feet or whatever.
That's the part that I'm really concerned with, because you can't see that picture.
Right.
There are ways to non-destructive test that. There are engineering firms that do that. When I assume when you refer one of these to an engineering firm, that's something they do. They do sound testing.
Well, they'll dig around and check, and the biggest problem we have too with the older lifts, we don't have prints. So we don't even know what the size is. So that's a problem too. I mean, if it moves, that's one thing, we can deal with it. But, we got hundreds of foundations in the state that are, like, say, 40, 50 years old, so.
To 70 years old, 60 years old.
Sure.
What's the assurance to the public that they are safe?
Sure, it's just if they're not moving. I mean, that's our only key. If they're moving, we can deal with it. Other than that, if it's looks good, it's not got cracks in it. If it's got cracks in like some of these pictures, then we know we got problems. We got moisture getting in there, and we take the risk of cracking a foundation. I mean, if it's solid looking, which a lot of them are, they've kept track of it over the years and kept the moisture off of it, the moss and everything, they're usually pretty stable, but, if you start getting into water problems or cracks, that's where the concern is, if we don't catch it.
I'm not hearing the answers that I want to hear. Still left with this concern that there's concrete underground. We don't know what was poured or how, what kind of condition it is. It's in. Only inspected if something happens on top of the ground. And as a guy who rides these lifts, that doesn't give me a whole lot of comfort, especially with the 50, 60, 70-year-old lifts. I'm wondering if other board members have thought this through at all. Kirsten, you're smiling.
I'm thinking, not
Okay.
specifically, no.
No, I haven't either. I mean, I go by what Mike's saying. We have, what limited standards to inspect we do. We look at them, that's one of our seasonal inspection points from our routine maintenance, that we're supposed to look at tower bases. And I know our crew walks all our lines and looks at them and looks for any deviations. I think, to the best of what we have available to us, we're checking them on a regular basis to see if there's movement. But I don't know what the right answer is here.
When you got the phone call, was it about a specific lift that we could, again, we inspect all the time, that we can either provide more perspective on, or we could go out and look at if they did say, it was this lift in this tower that I think there's an issue with?
It was one specific ski area, because I think that's what he was familiar with.
Okay.
And it was the older lifts at that ski area. It was large concrete blocks was the way you referred to it. So I think that's counterbalanced. forces or counterweights.
Mhm.
I was concerned with. That opened my mind to the whole thing. I think Mike has probably taken a look at that resort, right?
Well, we went back, after that, we know the resort. We know what they did. They actually did full engineering studies on all their lifts in 2019, 2020. So it had been done. I mean, a really good, engineering review, which is, have all the engineering on it. And, their recommendations that they had to repair a bunch of stuff, fix things. So, the ski area had done everything prior to this letter. They had done everything right, more than most ski areas did. They spent the money and did the engineering study, which is pretty in depth, so.
And they fixed, it sounded like
And they-
whatever deficiencies were
Yeah, they have a
identified.
list of everything that was identified, and
Yep.
was repaired, so.
So one of the things I told this gentleman was that I would bring it up at the meeting
Yep.
and that it would be in our minutes. And that it would be, so that's a good point to make sure we have in
Yeah.
our minutes.
Yeah.
The ski area that he was talking about.
I'm sure that they did the right thing. They had an engineer in recently.
2019, 2020,
They fixed
full
it.
engineering study was done by Doppelmayr.
Still leaves us with 18 ski areas that have this older than 50 years that we're
Yeah.
not dealing with now. Wondering if we can find a way to increase somehow inspect what's subsurface.
One thing we do too is, say the lift is getting modified, we actually do pull tests on the tower. Older lifts, when they're modified, it's part of the engineering, if it's being modified, the lift, they'll actually pull on the towers to a certain degree to see, does it shift and stay there, or does it, spring back? So, so there is things that are done with, if the lift is being modified.
You wanna add?
Yeah, I'm not aware of, Mike and piggyback, of a subsurface concrete failure that didn't show up above the ground in either a tower tipping or a major crack coming up to the surface. I've never heard of anything like that. If it fails below the surface, it's gonna fail above the surface.
You can see with these cracks, once water gets in there, it's just, it's gonna crack it.
Yeah, my concern is that there are probably cracks like that subsurface first before they make it above surface.
I don't know if we've really seen anything.
I've never.
Yeah,
never heard
Do
of
you, when a lift is decommissioned, do you ever pull the old foundations out?
they usually just pecker them, cut them up, bust them up and get rid of them.
Kirsten?
Yeah, we had one at Snowshed that we had looked at by Ross Stevens, and it looked pretty bad above ground, but and the crack had gone below ground, but the earth was like really holding it together. I would piggyback on what everyone else has said. It usually starts from the top and not from the bottom. And also, even when there's cracks in foundations and they get fixed and they're filled in, with grout or whatever else, they can still look pretty bad. Sorry about the background noise. They can still look pretty bad to the naked eye if you don't, all you see are cracks and white, and it might look bad to somebody who's just hiking or doesn't know that things have been fixed. If that makes
That's why I've
sense.
been a little silent, is I'm sure there are engineering
Yeah.
answers to this, and not being an engineer, something I think looks bad, somebody would be like, this is perfectly safe. And so is there, I'm just also being cognizant of the time and that we have about 10 minutes scheduled left. And so I don't know if this is something we can, I don't know if there's anything other states do, if we're going to look into that, if there is a way that this is tested in other states, that we can just see what that is as kind of a next, just a curiosity follow-up step. But at least with regard to this constituent, I think, and if you want us to maybe put this in an email or something that you can share back, we can, but that resort had the engineer out and they responded and fixed any deficiencies that were found from this comprehensive review.
I don't have an email, it was a
Oh,
phone call,
okay.
so there's no way for me
Yep.
to get back in touch.
Okay.
And that's why you want.
Right.
Yep.
Anonymous.
Right, right. So I really want to make sure that we say publicly, heard and
Yes.
fixed, right, and be addressed.
Yes.
I'd like to hear more about the engineering of subsurface concrete. particularly things like culverts and bridges and bigger structures too, because I think there's more engineering on that kind of stuff. When I look at the B77, it doesn't address this at all. No, so we're not behind the curve in that regard, not right on the curve. Right. It's still a concern. I'm wondering if you could check in with ACI or engineers that deal with concrete inspection, see what kind of standards might be available for doing, for non-destructive testing. And it might be that eventually we come up with a percentage of foundations that we ask for older lifts, or not sure.
Yeah, I'll check with my counterparts too across the country and see what's going on.
Yeah, so I'd like to follow up at the next meeting. Okay. Hopefully you'll have more information. Is engineered, right? And it's the older stuff that we're very comfortable with.
Yeah, the new procedure is it's really efficient. Like I say, we're taking samples. We know exactly what the strength is and everything. So,
Parker, you've been silent.
No, I think they're all great points, and also National Skiers Association. I mean, Dave Bird.
Yeah,
somebody to contact.
Well, I'll see them guys. And
oh yeah, you've got some
in Maine there.
Seminars coming up.
Yeah, seminars coming. So I'll see them guys.
That's a good clearinghouse.
Yeah,
Dolphin-Meyer. I'm sure they have heard this somewhere.
Right.
All right. So on the agenda, the next thing was going to be an update from Department of Tourism Commissioner Heather Pelham, who could not make it. So that's great. I know we only have 10 minutes left. So we'll move to item number 8, which was scheduling the next meeting. So we typically meet about every 3 months, correct?
It depends on season. We usually have an in-season meeting.
And so if we did 3 months out again, that'd bring us to mid-November. Does that count as in season?
It does.
Okay.
It doesn't actually.
I don't know. So I was thinking, because we could do, December, I think, is end of November through mid-December is Harvard holidays. And so in my mind, I would say we'd meet mid-November. We would wait until January. So does anybody have a preference on, I was thinking the week of November 10th, if we were to go 3 months out, which is still a little bit ways before Thanksgiving, or waiting until January.
Yeah, we should do it before Thanksgiving or January, definitely.
Yeah.
We could do one before Thanksgiving and see what's coming but then after that, everybody's running full bore. So that's why we always did them in January, kind of between the holidays in January. So everybody's leveled out a little bit.
Why don't we plan on mid-November? That will give us time to hear from ski areas about what variances they know about. Right, so have a package there to talk about.
A lot of them, we won't have a lot done by then.
Okay. We'll have the concrete return and maybe something else. Marketing.
Yeah, we could do a little kind of preseason marketing, maybe overview. Be kind of, I don't know, interesting.
And if it seems like we really don't have material for that meeting, we can cancel.
That's true too. Would, for the 5 members, I don't know, just tell me if you don't want to do this live and in person, but would 1 o'clock on November 12th work for folks?
It works for me, actually. I was thinking
1 o'clock
That's
on Wednesday. It's a Wednesday.
12.
Wednesday's a 12th. Wait a minute, will you all check your calendars? Okay. Dirk, Mike.
Fine with me.
Okay. Parker, you said
12th.
yes.
Yes.
For me,
12
I'm
works
good
for you.
either day.
Okay, so let's do 1 o'clock, November 12th. A calendar hold will come out for that. And again, that should be enough before Thanksgiving that hopefully people's lives haven't gotten too crazy yet. Okay, so with that done, is there any other business that folks want to raise that would take about 8 minutes or less?
I'll just mention something. If there's a lot of this one, because it wants me to not talk about it, I think, anymore. We issued a variance to TowPro to what's the name of the dark side for a lift their rope tow. So we issued that variance for 90 days so they could get it in at the end of last season. They never contacted us again. At our last meeting, I asked what happened. Why did we're supposed to talk about that at this meeting? Dirk sent out an email saying that it was insurance. That's the reason. So for anybody that's wondering, the reason is insurance. My follow-up question is, was it insurance on the lift, insurance on the park, insurance in general? And then that got me questioning why that insurance requirement was in the variance at all. As I've never seen insurance as a variance requirement for any other application. This one is moot because the variance was 90 days and it's done. I'd like us to just be aware that we asked for something that we don't have in our rules, that we haven't asked for anyplace else. We ought to be aware of why and whether we're going to do that again.
I didn't think it was we asked for insurance. I think the insurance company found out that they were putting a ski lift on their property and wasn't going to insure it.
Right.
It had
So
nothing to do with us.
Yeah, so our variance actually said that they had to have reasonable insurance. So we put that on them to ask their insurance company. I think it would be a good idea for us to recommend that they ask their insurance company. And they could say, gosh, we don't want to be insured. We put it in the variance and required that they carry insurance. We don't have that requirement for anybody else.
Could I just follow up on that a little bit? So I reached out to Will Mayo, one of the owners of ToPro. I did not talk to the owner of Dark Side. I just said, Will, we gave you this, we gave Dark Side the variance. You know, you never reached out to Mike. What happened? And he just, Will told me Dark Side's insurer didn't want to do it. So that's the information I have. And that's really all the information I have. If
Just, you know, and I guess I'll go back to, you know, I still was having problems with this whole situation and the fact that we had a manufacturer approaching us to put in an installation and not an owner approaching us who's a member of this fee-due program. So I think in the future, if an owner wants to put in a lift, they need to approach us and not a manufacturer. And we have to have some revenue stream to pay for it, because it's not fair to ask the resorts that have paid their fee due to take on a totally new member that isn't contributing financially to the program and taking up our inspector's time without being compensated for it. So I think that's another discussion on what the procedure is going to be in the future.
I would agree with that. And one of the reasons that I'm okay with the variance as it was issued is that Will was here virtually and heard the requirements for checking with the town and getting insurance. He approved it himself. He accepted the variance terms. So I don't feel like we threw one under the table here. I just like us to be aware of the insurance's requirement. And maybe when we do our next rulemaking, we add insurance as a requirement for every lift. We don't. So that was my 8 minutes.
That's perfect. Delia?
I just have a little bit of housekeeping, so this will be off the record.
So
To
should
the
we call
right.
the meeting,
Oh,
or should we,
yes,
should we
please.
conclude the meeting then? Okay, so
No.
it is 2:27 and I'm gonna officially conclude the business of this board for this meeting. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Nelia.
All right, to the right of Dirk. Is it Jeff
yes.
from the Forest Service? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, there was a gentleman that joined only for a couple of minutes, only under the name of Matt. Do we have a last name?
Miller.
Lillard.
Miller.
Lillard from Medford Glen.
Willard?
We
Lillard,
had a
L.I.
random, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I was spelling it. It's Lillard for Matt.
Oh,
Matt
Lillard, gotcha.
Yep.
We had a random telephone number. Somebody joined for a few minutes Any idea who that could be? Okay. My second
That
thing,
was me that joined for a minute before I could get on Teams. Joseph Demido.
Perfect. Perfect. I got your name. Thank you. There is a plate for Rob to pick up in my office. And then I did not get to hear who made the motion and second to approve
Is your
the
office in the
minutes.
Carolinas? It's your office in the Carolinas?
In my old office.
Road trip.
Who made the motion and second to approve the minutes after the amendments?
I think I moved. Not sure it was
Huh?
Scott.
Scott seconded, I think.
Scott second.
Yes.
Thank you. That was all, Commissioner. Thank you.
Have a great week, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dirk or check, you just hit the button.